Did you know that the fake news media is so desperate to avoid the truth that they now pay a group of spinsters to do their dirty work for them? That's right, the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, and the rest of the anti-gun, anti-Trump, anti-truth media have gotten together to pay a group called Digital Content Next to push more deceit. Their first target, of course, the NRA. The paid goons of the mainstream media, Digital Content Next, have sent a letter to Dana Loesch accusing her and the NRA of using, get this, incendiary language against the New York Times. Guess the so-called old gray lady is too afraid to fight her own fight, so they hired Digital Content Next to write an open letter telling NRATV, quote, your behavior is blatantly irresponsible as it may incite violence against journalists. Give me a break. They even went so far as to claim, quote, it's un-American to threaten journalists. They know the only thing we threatened to do was fact-check them at their every devious turn. So now, these hired thugs for the New York Times, CNN, and the Washington Post are going to attack the NRA because we call them out almost daily, because we expose their fake news and bias. Listen to me and listen carefully. Don't ever accuse NRATV of inciting violence against journalists simply because we hold them accountable. Let's break it down. The elitists who run these fake news companies don't care about journalists, and they certainly don't care about the First Amendment. Because if the New York Times, the Washington Post, and CNN were truly worried about violence against journalists, they'd be standing up to Antifa, a violent leftist group that we continue to fight with a clenched fist of truth, while the mainstream media remains silent with a closed mouth of lies. So now the leftist media comes after us, NRATV, because we research, then correct their bogus anti-gun, anti-freedom, anti-American stories. They claim somehow fact-checking them is inciting violence. It is unreal. So here's a question. Where were these so-called seasoned reporters when Antifa threatened the daughter of journalist Cassandra Fairbanks, ending an ominous tweet with, quote, be careful, doll, for your daughter's sake? Where was the leftist media when Antifa threatened even more conservative journalists and their families, warning, you better believe we have no problem threatening your leaders and their kids. Watch your back, alt-Rikers, no one's off limits. Where was CNN, the Times, and the Post when these reporters were actually being threatened by the violent left? Let's be clear. Digital Content Next wasn't hired to protect journalists. They're paid to advance the lies of the New York Times, CNN, and other anti-Trump, anti-truth media companies they represent. Consider this. Did these fake news bruisers publish a letter expressing concern for journalists when CNN host W. Kamau Bell incited violence at an Antifa rally, where the anarchists he was riling up went on to violently attack journalists? Ironically, Digital Content Next CEO Jason Kint even acknowledged this, tweeting that Antifa attacked journalists for no reason other than, quote, because we had cameras. But of course, the fake news will never hold their own accountable. They've stayed silent on CNN's record of violence for some time now, like when CNN anchor Don Lemon defends rapists while attacking their victims, or when CNN abused its power to blackmail a 15-year-old because their feelings got hurt over a GIF. I didn't see any letters of outrage then. I would be happy to sign one if the leftist media and their paid shills who represent them would ever muster up the courage to write it. You see, we here at NRATV have been the only ones willing to call out the violent left, the ones actually attacking journalists, Antifa. Yet every time we do, the Washington Post calls us dark. The New Yorker says we're manipulative. CNN pushes the lie, the NRA is anti-American. All while we are the only ones calling out the actual threat to the press, Antifa. The people in black masks who attack journalists in the streets and then threaten children online. The letter sent to Dana Loesch and NRATV from the left-wing media, fake news media, ends by claiming we encourage you to focus on defending the Second Amendment. We'll take care of protecting the First. Yeah, right. The media can't even name the threat they face. Antifa, they don't protect the First Amendment, they weaponize it. And they clearly fail to realize all freedoms are connected. So while the mainstream media, leftist media, remains incapable of protecting any of our freedoms, we here at NRATV will continue to defend them all.